Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a little video sharing a little bit more of my story, and particularly my advanced parole experience. If you don't know what advanced parole is, I want to share a little bit about it, but for all of my fellow DACA kids out there, I'm sure you're aware of what advanced parole is, and I wanted to share my experience. I know many people are probably curious about advanced parole, interested in applying for advanced parole, or waiting to actually experience advanced parole. So I want to share with you guys my experience, give you a little feedback, maybe give you a little reassurance, hopefully, and just share some feedback. I know when I was going through the process, I was very curious, and I would have loved to hear somebody's feedback. Okay, so I received advanced parole in 2017, I think. I had DACA for 2 years, I want to say, and the opportunity came about. During that time, I was working at a law firm. I was very blessed to have a lot of people around me with the knowledge and experience and willing to help me navigate, the whole immigration world. So there are different criterias that allow you the eligibility to apply for advanced parole. I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe employment, education, sick family members are options. For me, I had a sick family member back in Mexico, and that's the route we took to seeing if I would be allowed to leave the country. Advanced parole, and this is not by any means the definition, but the Cliff Notes version. Advanced parole is basically the United States giving you permission as an illegal person to leave the country and be allowed back without legal status. So due to having a sick relative, I was able to obtain doctor's letters to verify, my sick relative, and eventually was able to get advanced parole approval. Advanced parole gives you like the time frame of you can go for a week, for a couple of days, for multiple weeks. I was terrified. I did not wish to go for an extended period of time. I wanted to go and come back as soon as possible. So I honestly only requested, I believe, a week, and I believe I got 2 weeks approved. And I only went for 3 days because, again, I was terrified. I didn't know anyone who had done advanced parole. I wasn't able to get feedback from people, so I was not risking it. At that time, I was single. It's not like I had a relative to go with to accompany me. So yeah, I talked it over with my mom. We got everything in order and we applied. I got approved. Again, the application process, it's in depth. It's expensive. There are fees. You can't just apply. There are very expensive fees that you have to apply with. But once it got approved, and I knew that I believe it was in April. Once it got approved and I knew I was allowed to leave the country for numbers sake, I was allowed to leave the country from April 1st to April 15th. Those aren't the exact dates, but just to give you an idea. The paper actually tells you April 1st to April 15th. You have to be back in the country by this date. So I bought my flight. I had my passport, and I got my bags ready. I did this on my own. I was, I believe, 22 years old. I think 22 years old. And listen, when I tell you I shot my shot, I don't know how I had the courage to do it, but I did. I pushed myself and I put my fear and anxiety to the side. So I bought my flights. I left from La Guardia, New York, and I purchased a parking spot near La Guardia. Mind you, La Guardia is 2 hours from where I live. So I drove there by myself. I parked my car at a hotel that provides airport parking. I took a shuttle to the airport. I checked in. I only had a carry-on. My plan was only to stay 2 days. I was going to arrive Friday and I was going to leave Sunday. I did not see this as and I probably should have, but I did not look at this as a vacation. I looked at this as I'm going with one job, see this relative, do this experience that may benefit me in the future and come back. Come back was my main goal. I gotta come back. I gotta make it back. I've been in the United States since I've been 3 years old. This is all I know. I'm proud to be Mexican. I'm proud to be born in Mexico, but this is my life. You know, I have lived an American life. So I was terrified of staying in Mexico. So I was not risking it. So I got to the airport. I was super, super nervous, and I got my ticket and I waited. My flight left at like super early Friday morning. It was like the sun wasn't even up. So I boarded. Everything was fine. I got a nonstop flight. And I arrived in Mexico. Mind you, this was also my first time flying on an airplane. So I knocked all the birds out with one stone. I wasn't scared to be on the airplane. I wasn't scared to be by myself. My biggest fear was being allowed back into the country. Everything else to me was irrelevant. And I think that's what helped my nerves, that was all I cared about. So leaving the country was super easy. Got on my airplane, landed. I landed in Guadalajara, Mexico. My dad picked me up from the airport. I don't have a relationship with my dad. I hadn't seen my dad since I was 14 years old when he left, because he was an alcoholic. So I tried, you know what, I'm going to be in Mexico. I'm probably not going to be in Mexico ever again in the near future. So let me reach out to my dad, right? I did. And I got to Mexico, and he was the one that picked me up from the airport. When I arrived to Mexico, it was such a crazy feeling to get out of the airplane and feel like you're where you belong, but feeling out of place. Like, and that always, it replays in my head, because I think it's crazy that I was born here, I'm from here, but I feel out of place. It was crazy. But it was so cool. It was ridiculous. So I get, to the little booths where they stamp your where they stamp your passport. And the girl looked at me like I was not Mexican. And that always shook me, because she just looked at me. She wasn't friendly. Maybe it was just the person I got, but she wasn't friendly. She wasn't like, welcome to Mexico. And not at all how you experience it, but whatever, she stamped my passport, and I just went on my merry way. I finally got to the outside of the airport, and I couldn't see my dad. I didn't see him. I couldn't recognize. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Finally, he flagged me down, and I hugged him, and we got in his truck, and we went to a little restaurant, where Vicente Fernandez's ranch is, somewhere around there. I saw Vicente Fernandez's ranch. I was exhausted at this, it was like, I've been up since like the night before. I pulled an all-nighter at this point. I was beyond exhausted. So we ate. It was a beautiful restaurant we went to, like an outside restaurant. There was animals outside. It was just amazing, right? I was taking in every single detail. So then we get to my dad's house. My dad has little house, right? He lives like in a little town right near Guadalajara, but it's not in the city. So get to his house, little house, very cute. He shows me my room where I'm gonna be staying, and I get in there to get myself situated. I call my mom, and I just start wailing. I start immediately wailing. I'm crying. I'm telling my mom how I'm so scared, and I just want to be home, and I just want to be with her. And it was very, very emotional. I felt very grateful that I was able to be there, but at the same time, very scared, because that wasn't my life. And, many people may take it a different way, but it's scary. It's scary to know that potentially you will not be able to come back to what you know. And I was trying to enjoy being there, meanwhile terrified that I wouldn't be able to get back. But anyways, tried to make the best of it. It's my day to come back, and this is honestly everything that was on my mind. I wake up, and I get all my stuff ready. It's literally like super, super early in the morning. We get in the car, we're driving to the airport, and I hear gunshots. And I look at my dad and I'm like, what is that? And he was like, gunshots. And I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. We get to the airport. I say my goodbyes to my dad, you know, give him a hug. Bye, I'm out. And I go to like check in. This is where, and I'm pretty sure if you're doing advanced parole, if you're curious about advanced parole, if you're waiting for advanced parole, this is where it was just the longest day of my life. I go to check in. I show the gentleman my passport, my ticket, and he lets me in, right? I'm like, oh, cool. So I get on the airplane. At least from Mexico, when I was coming back into the country, they stopped in Texas. And in Texas is where immigration and customs verifies, I'm assuming, your paperwork and allows you into the country. So when we land in Texas, we have to, you know, go on to the next plane to go to your final destination. And as we are going through customs, they ask me for my passport. I show it to them. I have to go through they don't have any like specific like signs to direct you. So this is all a guessing game. As soon as we land, there's a citizens and there's a visa. And I'm neither. So I'm like, I don't know, which one do I go? So I'm like, I guess visa. So I go through the visa lines. I get to the official that's checking my passport, my paperwork. I hand him my passport. He takes a picture of me. I hand him my advanced parole document, which is a page. Mind you, you get 2 pages. I had 1 page and I gave my attorney the other page. God forbid something happened. He had, you know, a copy of my page. So I show it to the official and he says to me, these are like just things that blew my mind, right? The officer says to me, why don't you have citizenship? Yeah, since when have you been in the United States? And I was like 3 years old. And he says, why don't you have citizenship already? And I'm like, the irony that you're an immigration officer and you're asking me that right now is crazy. I was like, because I wasn't born in the United States, because I'm not married to a U.S. citizen. That's it. That's why. He said, oh, okay, that's crazy. All right, well, stand over there to the side. And I'm like, what? Mind you, I would watch the shows on Netflix and stuff of like people smuggling stuff in and, you know, all of that stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I'm just standing to the side waiting for an officer to come because an officer has to check my paperwork, I guess. So an officer approaches me and says to follow him. I follow him to a back room. Just like in the shows, you go to a back room. So I'm terrified, double, triple guessing what the hell is in my suitcase. I know what's in my suitcase, but you know, the panic of somebody probably put something in my suitcase and I probably don't know, and now they're gonna arrest me, and I'm just like, everything's going through my head. So I get to the back room and I just sit there feeling like a whole criminal. To be completely honest with you, I'm feeling like a whole freaking criminal. I'm sitting there. Officer calls me up and he says, where's your other paper? I'm like, what other paper? He said, you got 2 papers. Where's the other one? I could have passed out. And I looked at him and I was like, my attorney has it? He's like, why does your attorney have it? I'm like, well, he kept one and I have one in case something happened. He's like, well, that's not what you should have done. You were supposed to bring both papers with you. I'm literally on the edge of my freaking seat at this point. Like, he's not going to let me back into the country because of this paper. And I just stared at him like, tell me, you know? And he's like, he stamps my paper and he says, when you get home, you need to throw away the other paper. Do not try to use it to leave the country and re-enter. And I was like, okay. Here you go. And he gives my paper. You're free to go. I could have ran. I could have ran like I stole something. So I very patiently walk out, you know, and now I'm like, okay, now I just gotta make it on this airplane. So I'm walking towards my gate and there's, you know, the security officers everywhere. And I'm thinking, he's gonna stop me. He's gonna stop me, just act natural. And he stops me. So this officer stops me and he asks me multiple questions. Where did you go? How long did you stay? Why did you go? Where are you going? What do you do for work? Multiple questions, right? I have my suitcase, you know, I'm like pulling it, and I have a jacket on my suitcase that my aunt is sending to my mom. It's like a peacoat that wouldn't fit in my carry-on, so I just have it hanging over my suitcase. So I answer all his questions. He's like, okay, here you go. Keep walking. There's another officer a little bit ahead, and I'm thinking, you're gonna stop me too. I'm like literally walking towards him thinking, you're going to stop me too. So when I literally get to him, he stops me. And I'm like, okay, well, I already knew that was going to happen. And he asked me all the same questions and I answer with all the same answers. And I'm thinking, you guys, I watched this show. I know what you were going to do. I'm not a criminal. I'm just trying to make it home to my mom. So he says, okay, you're free to go. So I'm like, please just let me make it to this working gate. So I keep walking. And then I hear the officer say, ma'am. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, your coat fell. My mom's freaking pea coat. I could have grabbed that coat and threw it in the garbage. I was like, thank you. And I pick it up and I keep walking. Please, God, just let me make it to this gate. So I finally get to the gate. You know, they have to scan the book. I mean, I don't even know where I got to at this point, but they gotta like do the suitcases through the like x-rays and everything. So I'm getting all my stuff on in my suitcase there and everything. And there's just officers, you know, the ones that give you like the little trays and push your stuff through. My nerves are literally like, I could have had a nervous breakdown, a panic attack at this point. And I'm like, just let me get on the freaking airplane. So I'm waiting for my stuff to go by. And I say to the officer that's standing there, waiting for like the luggages to go through the x-ray, I'm like, I have a necklace on. Should I take my necklace off? He's like, you're fine. You're fine. And then I'm like, there's a candy bar in my bag. Should I take the candy bar? He's like, you're fine. He said, it's okay. And I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm like, they're going to stop me because of a freaking chocolate bar. Like, I can't. So I get through. Now I'm at my wait. Now I'm at my gate to get on my airplane to New York. Now I made it past immigration customs. Now I'm just waiting for my airplane. And I'm literally just like, my heart, even just telling you the story right now, my heart is beating out of my chest. And I was just like, please, God, please just let me get on this airplane. And I'm by myself. There's no one to pep talk me. There's no one to help me. And I'm just scared. Finally, we get on the airplane. We're bored. I get in my seat. I'm like, just please let me just get home. The flight, I think, is 6 hours. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. But, you know, we're on our way back. My stomach starts hurting, like painfully hurting. And I cannot figure out for the life of me, why is my stomach hurting? It's not like I had diarrhea. It's not like I had to go to the bathroom. It was just pain, like excruciating pain. And I had a Sprite and I'm like, what do I do? Come to find out, my stomach was hurting because I drank the water in Mexico. So don't drink the water when you go to other countries. I learned that lesson because I was in so much pain. But at this point, my nerves kind of helped me deal with the pain because I was just scared. So I land in New York and I'm like, please do not make me go through that again. Luckily, once I got to New York, because I don't know how this whole thing works, but because I passed customs already, it was just landing, getting your bags, going to your car. Which is what I did. Landed, got my bags, got to my shuttle, which took me to the hotel, got to my car, drove 2 hours home, finally pulled up to my house at night, and my mom opened the door, super, super huge smile on her face, like expecting the most elaborate, happy, fun-filled story from me. And I get out of my car and I walk towards her and I start wailing. I start crying. I'm never doing that again. I never want to go back. Like, I'm not doing that again. I don't know why I did it. And I was just sad. I was scared. I was happy. I was relieved. I was so many emotions. Now I think about it and I think of all the things I would have done differently. One, I would have had someone go with me, a friend. I have plenty of friends that have papers. I would have had someone go with me. I would have not went with my dad. You know, that was stupid. I would have enjoyed myself more. But of course, you know, going into something that's completely unknown, and as someone that, you know, if you have DACA, if you don't have a legal status, someone who knows the risk you're taking of potentially not being able to come back into this country, especially if you've been raised in this country, it's pretty freaking hard to say, I'm going to go enjoy myself. That's just my opinion. If you have, good for you. Good for you. I wish I had, but yeah, that was my experience. I would have done a lot of things differently. I'm glad I did it. It definitely opened doors for me. I now have my green card, so I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't let my fear stop me. I am super proud of myself for being so brave and doing that by myself and navigating it by myself. But I do wish I would have done it differently. And if someone is planning on doing this, if you're about to do it, don't be scared. Be sure of yourself, especially, if you have your paper, be confident. We are not criminals. We are not here doing anything bad. We are not trying to come back to do anything bad. This is our life, and I think it's pretty sad that I was scared of not being able to come back to my life. I think that's horrible. And I wish I would have been more confident. Sometimes it gets in your head that people make comments that we're criminals and that we're doing something bad and that, we're illegal. When you're in a situation like that, it gets in your head, is there something in my bag? Oh my God, like they're not gonna let me back in. And that's horrible. But if you're looking to do it, do it. Enjoy it. Do not be scared and do not be intimidated and do not ruin a beautiful, beautiful experience that, you may not have for a while. Do not let it be ruined by fear. Do not let it be ruined by fear. That's my advice. If you've done advanced parole, if you're going to be doing advanced parole, if you're looking into applying for advanced parole, that's my advice. Be confident, have fun, enjoy yourself. Sometimes it's sad circumstances. If there's a death in the family, if someone's very ill, in my case, my aunt was very sick. Obviously, you're not going to go party it up, but make the best of it because it's truly, truly a blessing to be able to do it. And it's a shame that so much fear and nerves get in the way, but that's a shame. But obviously that's life and that's normal. That's the situation we're in. And my biggest piece of advice is don't be scared. Don't be scared. I was very scared. I felt very out of place. Be confident. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the experience. It's different. It's not like anybody else going to Mexico, and that's what makes it special. That's what should make the trip that more significant to you. So I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I hope it's helpful, it's informative, it's interesting. I just want to share my experiences and spread the knowledge that I've gained in hopes that it helps someone else in my position or in a position that I was. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I can't wait to share more experiences and just share more of my personality with you guys and hopefully get to know a lot of you. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the love and I appreciate the support with all of my heart.